What up, and welcome back to another Malazan Book of the Fallen video. This time we're doing something different. This is a non-spoilery video, but I just wanted to touch on and do a follow-up to my friend Raf's video about who might like Malazan Book of the Fallen and who this series might be particularly good for. Let's get into it. First off, I want to start with a disclaimer, which is that I think that Malazan is a good book for everyone. And again, my friend Raf put up a good video about why Malazan is a great series for anyone, no matter what your tastes are. And I'll try and link to it there in the description or something. But whether you like philosophy or lasers and fireballs or military campaigns or, magic and all kinds of crazy stuff, animal companions, dragons, flying, dragonflies and everything in between, I think that everybody's gonna like it. But I do think that there's some personality types that are particularly predisposed to being really into Malazan. And so I figured I would just talk through, what kind of person I think I am, or why I'm drawn to it, and what other types of people I think fit into that very broad general box. First, I think that this is a kind of a puzzle to be figured out, right? That this, in some ways, is an enigma that you're, or in some ways, you're like Hansel and Gretel, like trying to find and follow your trail of breadcrumbs home, because you start as basically a person in the world with a limited amount of backstory and context and perspective, and you're getting information that you're trying to categorize and process and digest, and the picture only becomes less opaque over time, and so you have to have that kind of curiosity, that kind of figure it out kind of a mentality, I think, to not be totally daunted by that, or to be turned off, or at least to really enjoy that aspect of it. And it's kind of like hunting for Easter eggs in a way, because you're getting all these different pieces, and you're kind of like that Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme, where you're trying to connect the dots and tie strings together on all these disparate pieces of information to kind of narrow down on what's going on and who's doing what for what reasons, and who's the good and bad guy and all of that stuff. And that's why I think that, this is such a good book for people who are in kind of hands-on type of jobs, right? Like if you're a mechanic, if you're in the trades, if you're if you're a plumber, if you built Legos and stuff like that, because you were just always kind of taking stuff and breaking it down and then building it back up and seeing like, oh, this little wheel turns this little thing which pushes the spring down and it releases this lever, and then it, and all of that kind of stuff, I think is very much analogous to what you're doing in Gardens of the Moon, as an example, right? That you're going to pick up some information and you're going to get that, and ooh, that fits in here, and oh, that touches on this person, and oh, that somebody said something else. And so I think that folks who are in that type of a process, or have that kind of a mindset, really enjoy this kind of series where you're just, again, piecing together information. And I happen to know from my Discord that we have a lot of those types of people, right? People in the military, and they've worked in teams and squads where everybody has different jobs, and it's all about putting those together to become a cohesive unit, right? And so those are all the kinds of folks that I end up talking to about this series. And so, it seems like that's kind of a common thread, is those figure it out, put stuff together kind of folks. You also see like a lot of computer folks in there, right? I'm thinking about like Les and Orion and all these people who are like hardcore IT folks, or programming and stuff, right? Where you're thinking about like lines of code, doing all these steps, and then leading up to some kind of finished product, whether that's like a website or an application, or all of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like one category that I think it really works well for. The other kind of common theme that I see running through another side is that Malazan gets a lot of creative types, right? And we have some of the best art in like all of fantasy, I think, and I'm still begging for a Malazan art book of the Fallen, volumes 1 through 10, where we collect everything from Slain 69 and Corporal Knobs and Shadan and Hemlock Milk and Santiago Lozano and Brenna Saxton, and, you know, not to mention all the people who actually got paid to do Malazan art, Plugo arts, right? There's just so much good stuff out there, but I think, you know, you see those kinds of folks, you see people who like to draw, photographers, I'm thinking about people even who like edit videos, people who have like really broad perspectives and really understand how all these different kind of components, the kind of mise en place of life, right, works together, right? Because you got photographers who are like framing photos and people who edit videos, and they understand like transitions and telling a story through pieces, right, where you start walking and you look at like a Peter McKinnon video, right, where they just tell a little story with no words just by, you know, watching the guy's feet, and then he, you know, they show a picture of the keys, and then his hand goes in the ignition, then you see the exhaust puff come out of the tailpipe, right? And so folks who are in that kind of have the big picture creativity, seeing how all these different bits and pieces of the world kind of fit together, not in a formulaic way, the way that our kind of mechanics and engineers and Lego fanatics and all that do it, but more in a kind of nebulous, kind of creative, ill-defined, you know, way that only, you know, those creative types kind of see. But to me, it's a Rubik's Cube, right? It's about finding those patterns. It's about twisting it around and seeing what fits together, and you know, and trying to really get to the bottom of it and wrap your mind around it. It's something for you to think on. It's like a wine that you swirl around the glass, and you do all those, you know, funny things that they make you do when you drink really good wine. So I think everybody likes it again, but I just think, you know, those kind of piece by piece, figure it out, put stuff together types, as well as those really creative, thinking about all the bits and pieces, philosophical types who are just, you know, I don't know which one is left and right brain, but the non-math type of brains seem to really enjoy these books. And again, this is based on like an informal, non-scientific analysis, shall we say, of my Discord. The other thing, and not to just belabor this video too much, and not just to categorize groups of people, but the other thing that I said, and I said it on one of the Malazan Bunch videos, I think, was like the books for me are for folks who really want to live the story, not just be told the story, right? So there's folks who you just want to know what happened, that you know, again, this kind of idea of plot versus theme driven, that you're rushing through. And I was very much a kind of destination reader in the past, where you want to find out what happens, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. You want to define all the players and put them in the right buckets, and then you want to know what's the, you know, big conflict, and then you want to hurry up and understand how you get to that ultimate resolution. And people can tell you that this happened, then that happened, then this happened, right? And for me, I think what makes Malazan so much different, and why it's kind of changed me as a reader, but why I think it drew me in was because I didn't know I was a want to live the story type of character. I love getting in there with Diker and figuring out, or Duiker, and figuring out you know, what's going to happen, and being invested with that army, and feeling like I'm kind of on those front lines. I don't want to just have it feel like somebody told me, yeah, there was this big battle, a lot of people got their ass kicked, and that kind of thing. And you get that with Malazan. So I think that's another big piece, is if you're somebody who just wants to find out what happened, or conversely, if you really like to be ingrained and feel like you're actually one of the characters, and now actually in the context of one of the Erickson interviews. Actually, I think it was the one with Raph where they talked about the hero's journey and how in some ways, you know, the hero's journey of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, and this is no spoiler, isn't for any of the characters in the book. The hero's journey is for us as the readers, and so I think that in some ways kind of backs up in a much more articulate way what I'm saying, is that this is for people who don't just want to sit around the campfire hearing the story. You want to like never-ending story it and actually be in there with Atreyu riding on the flying dog or whatever. And in that way, I think it's, you know, again, important to highlight that this is very much a theme-driven, and we can't help as readers, and I think AP Canavan has talked about this at length, but just how much we're trained and have it beaten into us, right, to be destination-driven readers. Find out what happens. Oh my god, I got to get to the next chapter. Who does the double cross? Who does, you know, who throws the ring in the fire and all of that stuff. And where it's really much more about the journey, right? It's about looking out the window and enjoying the beautiful landscape, not having a checklist that said, yeah, I went to Japan, I went to India, I went to China, I went to Europe, etc., etc. It's about, you know, the experience of it, and so I think that folks who are on board for the sightseeing aspect are really going to love these books. And so yeah, the moral of the story is I think everybody loves it, but I think that the you know, the folks who have a lot of anxiety about knowing exactly what's going on or being able to see stuff coming a mile away are going to have more challenge with it and be upset when you jump to new continents or new characters get introduced, or where you leave stuff on a cliffhanger, don't totally understand the explanations of stuff. Whereas, you know, folks who are like, wow, I don't totally get that, but that was pretty cool and I love this part and that, I think are going to be the folks who really are excited about going from book to book. So, you know, it's not for everybody, but I think if you read and look at Raph's video, he makes a pretty compelling case that it might in fact actually be for everyone. And of course, I'm biased. I love these books to death, but I hope you'll at least jump in and give them a try. Let me know in the comments what you think, and we got a lot of resources in the Malazan community for you to help you get through these first couple books until we get you hook, line, and sinker. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoy the books. Like and subscribe if you want to keep going on your Malazan journey. And until next time, happy reading.